Hello and welcome back to another Roblox Studio video. In this case it's not really so much of a tutorial, but there are tutorial aspects in it because today we're going to be making and generating terrain for your game or your place, how you can design it, how you can make it using a height map and color map, techniques like that will make it very unique in your game and you can get exactly what you want for your build. And in this case we're going to be using the shed as our model to work with this terrain, and we'll be placing it throughout the terrain, whatever, and we'll be making the terrain around it. So let's get right into it. Alright, so getting right into this video, I'm going to initially start by creating terrain the old-fashioned and honestly the slower way by using the tools Roblox provides, and then afterwards I'll show you how to do height maps and maybe even color maps on both Paint.net and Blender. Okay, so getting right into this, you're going to make sure you have the terrain editor open, and then you're going to go to the create and region and edit tabs and use your tools there. I'm going to speed up the process real quick and you guys can watch the buttons I'm clicking as I go through this, as well as the keybinds that will show at the bottom left, and you can follow along with what I'm doing. But until then, I'll see you afterwards when I'm done. Okay, so I'd say this terrain generation and some of the editing that we've done is pretty much done. As you could see, as you could tell, it was pretty slow, but I've made it look pretty good. We've painted, we've checked out the grass, changing the colors, used the grow tool. I didn't make any caves, so I didn't use the erode tool or any deleting tools, but I put the shed over here and I added a free model Jeep here, and I added roads that we can drive on now, so we have roads here, and here I go. I'm traveling across our terrain. This works. This Jeep works pretty well with the terrain. And I sort of flattened it out. I use the smooth tools, use all sorts of stuff. I did not get into the region tools, but I might do that with the height map and stuff. But if you guys want to learn about those tools, you guys can go check out my other video. I recorded it before this one, and it was my latest, so go check that out if you want to learn more about the tools. But otherwise, you can see it's not that hard to use terrain, and it can turn out very nice. So now I'm going to show you guys how to do height maps and color maps and how you can make them. So let's get right into that. So to get rid of this terrain, I'm going to go ahead and clear all these trees out first, and then once I've done that, oh, I accidentally deleted the shed. We don't want to do that. Just go to the folder that we made filled with trees, delete that folder, and that's why it's always good to have them in a group or trees, so you don't have to single-handedly go select them in the workspace or in your game window. And to clear the terrain, we are just going to either go to the Create tab on the terrain editor and press clear, or go to the command bar and type in workspace.terrain:clear open parentheses, and then there goes the terrain. We're also going to delete that Jeep, and then we're going to leave the shed there for now because I'm going to go create the height map, and then we'll move it around accordingly based on our height map and how that comes out. If you don't have this downloaded, I will leave a link in the description for you to go download it. It is free and it is fairly simple to use. There are tutorials all over the place on how to use it, and I think they have a forum for people who want to figure things out or how to do things, so you can go check that out. First thing we're going to do is click this new button. It's a page with a plus sign, or you can also press Control N and this will load your create a new image. We're going to set the width and height to 1000 pixels, so it's a perfect square. It's just going to be like this image that I already have loaded out. We're just going to work with this one right now, and as soon as you open paint.net and create your new image, you can go all the way to the right to the effects button or tab up here. Click on that, it will open a drop down. Click on render, or you can open it by just hovering over it and click clouds, and it'll load noise that makes the shape of clouds. So you have two options here, and well, actually you have four options if you're including the blend mode and random noise. Scale and roughness are going to be your main two options, and this will change the overall size of your image and your noise and what's going to be showing. So if you have it really low, it's going to be very distinct, there's going to be a lot of noise, or if you have it very high, it's going to be separated, zoomed in pretty much, and you won't see that much noise. Your roughness will determine how distinct your noise is, so it could be very blurry or could be very distinct and specific as to where the noise is on your image. And we're going to keep it right in the middle because we don't want our land to be super distinct, and because that would cause a bunch of little tiny bumps. You see all these tiny little white spots? That would be picked up in the height map, and it would be considered in the generation. So we're going to keep it around here, keep it very smooth and simple. And then you can also do random noise to randomize where your mountains or ditches might be, and you can keep clicking that. It's always going to be random, so you can keep clicking that depending on how or what you want, and once you get that, you can stop. You can also change the blend mode. This won't change much, but it can change a little bit of things. It's not worth it to change the blend mode unless you're working with another image beneath it, or you know, you have another layer on top of it or beneath it, so it's not really worth it. Otherwise, that's pretty much it for paint.net. Now we're going to move on to Blender. Okay, so now we're in Blender, If you don't already have this downloaded, make sure to go download that. It is free. I'll leave a link in the description as well. I'd recommend that you download version 2.8 because that would be much easier for beginners. This is 2.9. You can download it if you want. You might have to go watch some tutorials to get to know some things, but I will be jumping right into it and showing you what to do. First, we're going to delete this cube. We're going to press Shift A, go to Mesh, and then we're going to also click Plane. And this is what we're going to be working with. This is where we're going to make our image. We're going to go on the Z axis. We're also going to go down here into material properties off to the right. Going to go down to that little sphere. It's kind of 4 split shapes on that sphere. Then we're going to press new here. We're going to add a new material. We're going to press tab to go into edit mode, and this will allow us to assign that material to this plane. And now we can add a noise texture and shading in the nodes that we can work with. Yes, we're going to be working with nodes here. We can work with that to create our noise, and that will be our height map. We'll save that as an image. So now that we have the material added, we can go to shading. We have the shader and then the material output. We're going to press Shift A in this window, in the shader window, and the node window really. And then we're going to add our noise texture. And if you have Node Wrangler enabled, you can press Ctrl T and this will add the mapping and texture coordinate. If you don't, you can go to the search bar by pressing Shift A and typing in mapping and the texture coordinate individually, and you'll connect the texture coordinate to the mapping once you have it open like this, or you have both of them. You can choose generated, normal, UV, any of these options depending on what you're working with. For now, I'm gonna do generated because we're trying to generate noise on our plane. And then we're just going to plug this factor in from the noise texture into the shader, and then we're going to get our noise, as you can see there. Now that we can see our noise, we can start manipulating it with our noise texture node here. It works in a similar fashion to Paint.net, except you have more customizability in Blender. You can change the stretch of it, and you can change the direction of your noise on the X, Y, and Z axis and all sorts of stuff. You can change the coordinate and what node is being plugged into what. So it could be based on the object, or as we said, it could be generated. But it's entirely up to you based on how you want it to be. What I'm also going to do to add and make the colors more distinct is add a color ramp. That way we can have specifically our blacks and whites, and we can change the intensity of them, and we can change where they are on the image and how intense they are on the image. Like right now, we just practically created a camo, and there are no grays, it's just black and white. And so in certain spots we just have all mountains, and in certain spots we just have like very deep canyons. So if I was to save this, there'd be like very, very high mountains and then very, very low ditches. So that could look pretty cool, and we'll save that as an image. So I kind of played around with it there. You can play around with it in the noise texture as well. You can change if it's facing, you can change if its dimension is 1D, 2D, 3D, 4D. This doesn't really change much, but it can minimally change how it looks. I'm gonna keep it 3D because that's how it's default set. You can change its scale to whatever, but this is where it can get really interesting. You can change the color ramp to see how distinct your colors might be, and if you want it to fade in and be less like a spike and more like it fades into a mountain, or looks more like a mountain and it's not so jagged. But I'm gonna keep it this way as we had it. I'm gonna keep it, let's do that, I guess. And then you can also change the detail of it and how distinct the shape of the mountain or ditch is. So this is pretty interesting. We'll keep it like this. I'm gonna up the scale, and I'm doing this by lowering the overall number of the scale. I'm gonna keep it somewhere around like this. You can edit it to however you want it to be. Whites are high points, so let's actually swap this and then change the scale. So there we go. That should be good. This is gonna look pretty funky in Roblox, but it looks pretty realistic. It looks like these could actually be islands, or islands on a ocean or something. That could be pretty interesting. You can also change the roughness of them. This will kind of distort it and determine how rough your mountains or islands or points will be, whatever you want them to be. So we're gonna keep it. It kind of gives it a more realistic look as well. Looks more like actual land on Earth. So I'm gonna keep it like that. That should be fine for now. We're gonna upload that into Roblox later, but now I have to show you how to upload this into Roblox. You can also change the distortion, by the way. This kind of like makes it warp and curve and twist and turn, stuff like this. You don't really need to do that though. So now I'm going to show you how to export this and save it as an image and stuff like that. You know, just work with these settings, work with these nodes, and you can get your output. So there's two ways you can do this. You could either bake it and save it as an image that way, or you could render it and you can save it as an image that way by doing like F12 and doing your camera manipulation and stuff like this. We're gonna go ahead and try and show camera manipulation and rendering the plane and then saving that as an image and then importing it into Roblox, and then we'll also do the baking method. So first what we're gonna go ahead and do is go to our render properties, which will be indicated by a camera. You can see where my mouse is right there. We're gonna click there. We're gonna go to our render engine, change that to cycles. And this will allow us to bake and render our image as we want it to be. And next, we're gonna go ahead and go into our camera view. Our camera's right here for now, and we're gonna want to reset it to where it has an overhead or bird's eye view of our plane. So we're gonna go ahead and press Alt R and Alt G. This will reset everything that has been done to it, its rotation and movement. Then we're gonna press G and then Z to lock it on the Z axis. And we're going to drag it up above this image. We're going to then go to the camera settings right here. It's the object data properties, and in this case it's a camera. We're going to go to the type up here, and we're going to change the view from perspective to orthographic, and this will make it so we can change how we view the image, and we can make it square if we want. We can then change the size of the camera specifically if we go to our output properties. And if you really want to get what the camera is doing while you change it, you can press numpad 0 or click this camera icon. I don't have a numpad because of my keyboard, and so I click that button to access the camera. And after this, I will change the size of our resolution, and if we want a 2K image, we're going to use 2048, and this will give us a square. And now you can zoom in, the image by going to our camera settings, and we can change our orthographic scale, and this will change how close we get to our image. And because we made it a perfect square by it being 2048 by 2048, making it 2K, we can zoom into the image, and now we have what we want. You can also press Shift to slowly increase or decrease your values. So now we have that into our camera's perspective. We can now press F12 and we can render the plane. I almost forgot to mention that to get your actual render output, you have to go to this viewport shading option, which is the actual render output. And as you can see, I deleted my light. You want to make sure you do that if you want to get your render accurate. And what I'm going to do is add a sun, and that will light up my plane and my image. So now my image has a light source. You can change the intensity of that light as well by selecting it, and you can be in the object data properties. It'll show a little light bulb at the bottom. You can go there and change the strength of it. You can change how dark your image is, and if it wants to be if you want it to be pitch black, or the black to be more gray or white, and the whites will always stay as white as possible. But you can change the brightness of your render, and since I have somewhere around there, that looks pretty nice. Now you can press render. Make sure you adjust your light settings and check in the actual render viewport shading to get your final result. Okay, so now that our render is complete, we can actually go up here to the image in the top left. It'll be the button image. Click that, go down to save as, and save the image to and whatever you want it to be, whatever name, and wherever you want it to go. And once we have that, you can also take it back into other places. And once we have that done, you can either automatically upload it into your Roblox game, into the assets, so you can use it as a hype map. Or what I would do is take it into paint.net, and you can change it into a color map if you want by selecting specific locations on your image and then changing it to whatever color you want it to be, whether it be water or sand or grass or whatever. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to show you how to do the color map. One thing I almost forgot to mention is to save it as a PNG RGBA with a color depth of 16. So make sure you do that when you're saving your image. Alright, so what we're going to do to start with the color map is we're going to open paint.net, and after you've saved the image, the rendered image, you're going to take it to paint.net. You're going to go up here to this folder button. It's going to be yellow with a green arrow. You're going to click that and open your image. It's going to open into paint.net, and the first thing we're going to be working with is the magic wand tool, which will be located in the toolbox or toolbar, whatever you want to call it. And what this will do is select the specific selection that you want to edit. So let's say I want to edit this gray only. It'll select everything connected to this area and the colors that are nearby. It won't select anything that is detached from it or too far, because it's only recognizing the certain area that you selected. But you can also press shift click and it will recognize all the other areas, and it will select all other colors similar to it. If it's another color, it won't select it, but if it's like 2 shades off, it will or it might select it. So you might want to be careful with that. And it's starting to round the edges here, so what we're going to do to make it more specific is lower the tolerance, so we only coloring what we want specifically and not making blobs, and we get sharper edges, stuff like this. So now once we have that island selected, we can change the color. So I'm going to make the brush pretty big. You can probably use the bucket tool if you want, the fill bucket, but you don't really need to. And if you want it to be faster, I guess just use the brush. Better to be safe than sorry. So because I want sort of islands on water, I'm going to use a tan sandy color, and you know, whatever is used in the color map will be picked up in Roblox Studio, and it will try and match that color for you. So I'm going to try and, oh, that's orange, so we're going to try and make it more tan like sand. Make it like that. Yeah, there we go. And then we're going to just brush over it. Now we have sandy looking terrain or colors. And the same thing we're going to do with the gray, and we're going to shift click because we have some lakes over here, and there might be some other hidden areas like these little dots in here. And we're going to try and see if water will work, and I don't think it'll work, and that's what the sea level button's for. But doing the same thing, selecting your color, brushing over it, there we go, we've got a color map. Same thing, we're going to go up to file, and then we're going to save as. We're going to save that file, and we're going to upload these into Roblox Studio. Okay, so once you have your 2 images that you want to work with, unless you're not using a color map, then you'd have 1 image. But once you have those images or image, you're going to go to View tab in Roblox Studio, because this is where we're going to now upload these images so we can use them on Roblox. You can't upload them as decals, you have to upload them as game assets so they work inside of your game and you can work with the terrain, because you need them as an asset image in your game for the terrain editor to pick it up and work properly. So we're going to open Asset Manager by going to View, that tab, and then right next to Properties and above the Toolbox button, there's going to be the Asset Manager button. You can open that, and it's going to open your game assets. You're going to have places, images, meshes, packages, and audio. We're going to be working with images in this case, and to add your images, you're going to go ahead and press right click, and you're going to add your images. Now what's going to happen is it's going to go through the process of importing. Sometimes it'll show an X. If this is the case, you might have to resave your image or just rename it or edit it a tiny bit, maybe change a little bit of the colors, you know, if nothing's working. One of those methods should work because it worked for me. But yeah, you'll just add the images, and once it's imported, it'll show a green check mark saying it's good to go. But then after that, it's going to go through moderation, and it's going to have to be approved before you can use it as an asset image. And if you try to use it without it being moderated, then it will not work, and the terrain editor will actually tell you that it hasn't been moderated. So you're going to have to wait for that. But once it's been moderated, you can use it, you'll see it, and you'll see it as an option. Okay, so now those images have passed moderation. We have the ability to upload them as the height map and color map. Make sure you have the color map setting on. You can do that by clicking on it, make sure it's highlighted green. Oops, I closed the drop down. But now that they are passed, we can select the height map, the gray and white and black, or the white and black image that will define our mountains and ditches and stuff like this. And we can also choose our color map, the one we colored in paint.net. Now we can press import and it will actually load the height map. So as you can see, it loaded as we wanted it to. Now the importance of scaling it is so critical here, because this will like change how well your height map works. Like for example, if we wanted it to be Earth scale and look like actual islands, we'd have to make it much larger than this. But this is fairly accurate. This is pretty nice. I'm gonna go ahead and also show you guys a larger scale version of it. You can change the height of your the overall height of your scale of your height map, so you can have your lake area higher or lower, so your water could go very deep or it could be very shallow. And as I expected, it turned into ice instead of water. I don't think water can be added through a color map, so we'll have to do like sea level over here, or we can do region, select, and fill with water. Even though that might, I'm not sure, it might erase some of the land. I hope it doesn't. But now I'm going to show you guys what happens if you make it an absolute grand scale, huge, realistic, and it like you could take a year or probably an hour to walk across the entire thing. So let's go ahead and do that now. So we're going to go back to import, select your height map. In this case, it's named Blender for me, and then we got the color map, and then we're going to make this absolutely massive, and you're going to see the distinct difference. Everything's going to be so closely resembling to the height map in every specific detail. And this is important if you want your details to be this specific. I had it way larger than this last time and it lagged me out, but it ended up loading and it was just massive. So let's go ahead and do this. This is pretty medium, so I'll see you guys when this loads, because it's gonna take a minute. And don't worry, because when you freeze, it doesn't mean you've crashed. It just means it's loading sometimes. Alright, so here we go. It's loaded up, and as you can see, the tiny little details that you may not have seen in our height map start to show, such as tiny little islands like this. They become larger and have more of a distinct shape instead of just being a little like dot. So this is very cool, and this could have a lot of purposes. This looks like the old terrain. This looks like old terrain. I'm surprised. Unless I'm stupid and I just never used wood planks on my terrain. So now I'm going to upload the terrain for our shed, and I'm going to keep it fairly small so we don't have like this giant map to work with. But I'm going to also keep it square, so I'm going to change our X to, let's say, 3500. And then once my little thing disappears, I'll change the Z to 3500. There we go, just had to copy and paste the value, but now we have a square terrain platform. We have our color map and height map loaded, and we're just going to go ahead and import it. This one shouldn't take too long. Alright, so there we go. I might keep the selection if it will be that large. I don't know if I can. And you can choose box selection, so I wonder how large this can get. We're going to try replacing that sand with grass. So I'm going to work with this terrain now, and I'll speed this up so you guys can watch what I'm doing, and then I'll get back to you after I'm done editing it, and we'll have the shed in place, everything. It'll be nice. Okay, so we've edited our hype map generation here, and it's pretty scuffed. I just copy and pasted a bunch of pine trees on tropical islands practically. Pine trees don't really belong in tropical islands or on tropical islands, so we've got a road that leads straight into the ocean and wood planks surrounding the edges of holes, so you'd probably have to fix that yourself. And then we got our our grocery store or our 7-Eleven down the street. We're just gonna cut right through. We're gonna go to our 7-Eleven that we free modeled into the game, you know, for sake of time. And then we just walk in. We can, okay, what does this guy say? What do you want? Give me all your monies. Okay, I like this. I like this. It's a nice 20. Oh, it's a 24/7. It's not a 7-Eleven. Copyright 24/7. Okay, let's see what else does this guy say. I'm just kidding. We're not gonna care about what he says. We got donuts here too, though, man. Crazy. So this is our hype map. This is our terrain generation. You saw me use the replace button and replace the ice with water, or the glacier with water in that case. And then I also replaced the sandstone with grass because that's how it was supposed to be, or it was supposed to be sand, but I also decided that it should be grass. So now we're back at our shed, and look, you can look outside and look, there's big great oh man, the glass destroys it, destroys the images. Oh well, it turned out pretty well. Oh my gosh, this Jeep's about to climb the house, or the shed. Okay, this was a pretty long video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, or you learned something new. If you did, make sure to go ahead and like and subscribe. Also share this video with others. They might want to learn how to do terrain and hype map and color map generation and stuff like this, how to find them, how to make them, all this good stuff. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Like and subscribe, share the video, turn on notifications, do whatever to help me help you, you know, all that good stuff. I'll come out with more videos in the future, and I'll see ya.